The debate around the best players in Major League Baseball is always intense, but every once in a while a ranking drops that really gets people talking. This time, a group of analysts from across the league came together to build a list of the 100 best players heading into the new season, and the top 10 alone is already sparking plenty of discussion among fans. The process involved a lot of back and forth, with different viewpoints coming together before the final order was decided. And while some names feel completely locked in, others are definitely going to divide opinions depending on how you look at recent performance, potential, and overall impact on the field. At the very top of the list sits Shohei Ohtani, and honestly, it is hard to argue with that choice. Ohtani has redefined what it means to be a superstar in baseball, dominating both as a hitter and as a pitcher in ways the sport has not seen in generations. Right behind him comes Aaron Judge, a player whom many still consider the most dangerous hitter in the world. Judge's ability to change a game with one swing is unmatched, and when he is healthy, he is a constant threat every single time he steps into the batter's box. Where things begin to get interesting is right after those two. The number 3 spot went to Paul Skeens, which immediately raised some eyebrows. There is no doubt that Skeens is one of the most electrifying pitchers in the game right now. His stuff is incredible, and the dominance he showed recently has convinced a lot of people that he is on a fast track to becoming one of the faces of the league. But placing him as the 3rd best player in all of baseball is a bold statement. Some fans feel that might be a little too aggressive, especially considering the number of established stars who have been performing at an elite level for years. The 4th spot went to Bobby Witt Jr., another young player who has taken massive steps forward. Witt has quickly turned himself into one of the most dynamic talents in the game with his combination of speed, power, and defensive ability. Every time he takes the field, he has the potential to impact the game in multiple ways, which makes it easy to see why he landed so high on the list. Not far behind him sits Tarik Skubal, whose rise as one of baseball's most dominant pitchers has been impossible to ignore. When Skubal is on the mound, hitters know they are in for a long day. Juan Soto came in at number 6, and that placement feels pretty comfortable for a lot of fans. Soto has been one of the most consistent offensive forces in baseball since he arrived in the big leagues. His approach at the plate is incredibly advanced, and he has a rare ability to control the strike zone while still delivering elite power. Players like that do not come around very often, which is why he continues to be viewed as one of the most valuable hitters in the sport. Then comes one of the names that really got people talking. Cal Raleigh landed at number 7 after putting together a huge season. His power numbers were incredible, and he played a massive role in his team's success. But this is where the debate really starts to heat up. Some people feel that ranking might be a little high, especially if you're trying to project what will happen next season rather than just looking at what happened recently. Replicating that level of production is not easy, and that uncertainty is why some fans are hesitant to place him that high among the game's elite. Jose Ramirez shows up next at number 8, and if there is one player who rarely gets the credit he deserves, it might be him. Year after year, Ramirez quietly delivers elite production while doing a little bit of everything for his team. He hits for power, gets on base, runs the bases aggressively, and plays strong defense. Players with that kind of complete skill set are incredibly valuable, and Ramirez has built a career out of consistently performing at an all-star level. The final 2 spots in the top 10 also sparked some debate. Yoshinobu Yamamoto came in at number 9, followed by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at number 10. Yamamoto has shown flashes of brilliance that suggest he could become one of the most dominant pitchers in the league, but some people felt Guerrero might deserve to be slightly higher. Vlad has already proven that when he gets locked in, he could be one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball. His power is incredible, and when he finds his rhythm at the plate, he can carry an offense almost by himself. Interestingly, Guerrero has been showing exactly that kind of form recently. During international competition, he has been absolutely on fire at the plate, collecting hits at an incredible rate and driving the ball with authority. Performances like that remind everyone just how dangerous he can be when he is fully locked in. If he can bring that same energy into the early months of the regular season, it could completely change the narrative around his year. One of the biggest talking points surrounding Guerrero over the past few seasons has been his tendency to start the year slowly before heating up later. Fans have seen flashes of dominance, especially in big moments, but many are still waiting for that stretch where everything comes together from day one. If he can finally deliver that kind of start, there's a real chance he could put together the best season of his career. And that is saying something considering what he has already accomplished. His breakout campaign earlier in his career set an incredibly high bar, with numbers that seemed almost impossible to top. Yet the way he has been swinging the bat lately has people wondering if his peak might actually still be ahead of him. The idea that Guerrero could reach another level offensively is both exciting and a little scary for opposing pitchers. There's also another factor that adds to the intrigue. Often when players secure massive contracts or reach a certain level of success, you sometimes see a small drop in intensity the following year. But Guerrero has never really carried himself like that type of player. If anything, he seems to thrive when there is pressure or doubt surrounding him. That competitive edge has been a big part of his identity as a player, and it continues to fuel the belief that his best baseball may still be coming. As the discussion around the ranking continued, attention quickly shifted beyond the top 10 and toward the rest of the list, where things started to get even more complicated. Once you move outside the elite tier, evaluating players becomes a lot more subjective. There are so many factors involved, from recent production to projected performance, and even the way fans remember certain players from previous seasons can influence how they feel about these rankings. One name that stood out in the middle section of the list was Bichette, who landed around the mid-40s. For many observers, that placement actually feels pretty fair when you consider the criteria used to build the rankings. The focus was primarily on the most recent season, with a look ahead to what players might bring into the upcoming year. Bichette has shown that he can be one of the most productive shortstops in the game when he is healthy, combining strong contact hitting with the ability to drive the ball to all fields. Still, the names surrounding him on the list sparked some interesting comparisons. Players like Manny Machado and Alex Bregman were placed nearby, along with pitchers such as Chris Sale and Hunter Green. When you look at that group, it becomes clear how tight the competition is in that part of the rankings. Each of those players has had moments where they looked like one of the best at their position, but they have also faced challenges, whether it be injuries, inconsistency, or changes in role. Right behind Bichette, several big names also appeared, including Blake Snell and Zach Wheeler. That proximity alone highlights how difficult it is to separate players in this range. On any given season, a pitcher like Wheeler can look like a legitimate Cy Young contender, while a hitter like Bichette can anchor an entire lineup with his bat. The difference between those rankings often comes down to small margins in production or the expectations people have for the next season. Another Toronto player who drew attention was George Springer, who appeared a little further down the list. Springer's placement sparked some debate because of how strong his recent season was. He managed to produce at a very high level and even receive recognition in award voting, which normally pushes players higher in rankings like these. However, age and long-term projection tend to influence how voters think about veterans who are entering the later stages of their careers. Springer has been one of the most reliable outfielders in baseball for a long time, known for his leadership, his power at the plate, and his ability to rise in big moments. But when analysts try to predict future performance, they often become cautious about players who are past their early 30s. The question becomes whether a recent standout season represents the beginning of another strong stretch or simply the peak before a gradual decline. That kind of thinking tends to affect rankings more than many fans realize. Even when a player performs extremely well in a single season, voters sometimes hesitate to place them too high if they are unsure that production will continue at the same level. It is not necessarily a criticism of the player's ability. Instead, it reflects the uncertainty that always exists when projecting the future in a sport where performance can fluctuate from year to year. The list also sparked conversations about some younger players who might have been undervalued. Roman Anthony was one of the names that came up frequently in those discussions. Despite being one of the most exciting young talents in the league, his placement was relatively modest compared to what many fans expect from him in the near future. The main reason for that comes down to sample size. When a player has only one full season in the majors, it becomes difficult for analysts to confidently rank them among established stars. That does not mean the expectations are low. In fact, many believe Anthony has the potential to become one of the most impactful players in the game over the next few seasons. His skill set is impressive, and his development has been incredibly fast. If he takes another step forward, it would not be surprising to see him climb dramatically in rankings like this by the time the next list is released. The same type of conversation surrounded several other young players scattered throughout the rankings. Prospects who have recently broken into the majors often face this exact situation. Their talent is obvious, and their potential seems limitless, but until they build a longer track record at the highest level, many voters prefer to remain cautious with their placements. At the same time, this approach can sometimes lead to situations where younger stars appear lower on the list than veterans whose best seasons may already be behind them. That contrast creates some of the most heated debates whenever a ranking like this is released. Fans who follow emerging players closely often feel that the future stars deserve more recognition, while others prefer to reward the consistency and longevity shown by established names. Another interesting section of the list involved pitchers who landed around the later half of the top 100. Kevin Gausman was one of the names representing Toronto in that area, appearing as the first pitcher from the team to make the rankings. His position placed him roughly among the top 20 pitchers in the sport, a sign that his contributions are still respected across the league. Gausman has built a reputation as a dependable starter capable of delivering quality innings and keeping his team competitive deep into games. His splitter remains one of the most effective pitches in baseball when it is working, and he has shown the ability to dominate lineups when he finds his rhythm. However, his ranking also reflects the reality that pitching depth across the league has become incredibly competitive. Names like Joe Ryan and Ranger Suarez appeared in the same general area of the rankings, which once again shows how tight the margins are when evaluating pitchers outside the very top tier. A few strong starts or a stretch of inconsistency can dramatically change how a pitcher is viewed from one season to the next. That volatility is part of what makes ranking pitchers so difficult compared to position players. Some analysts even argued that certain pitchers might deserve to be higher based on their underlying performance rather than their traditional statistics. Advanced metrics have become a huge part of modern evaluations, and they often reveal strengths or weaknesses that are not immediately obvious from basic numbers. When those metrics enter the conversation, the debate becomes even more layered. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. In a twist that few insiders saw coming, whispers around Major League Baseball circles suggest the league may be preparing to acknowledge a major historical mistake, one that could lead to the restoration of a significant championship to the Los Angeles Dodgers. While no formal statement has been released, multiple sources close to league discussions claim that internal reviews have revisited a controversial decision tied to one of the most debated title races in recent memory. According to individuals familiar with the situation, league officials have been quietly examining archival reports, umpire logs, and administrative rulings connected to the disputed season. The review reportedly began as a routine historical audit, but soon uncovered what some executives allegedly described as a procedural irregularity in how the championship outcome was validated at the time. The Dodgers organization has not publicly commented on the speculation, though figures around the franchise are said to be aware that conversations are happening behind closed doors. One source suggested that league lawyers and historians have spent months comparing documentation from team officials, game reports, and disciplinary records that may have influenced the final judgment years ago. If the rumor proves accurate, the implications would be enormous. Correcting the record after so many years would be almost unprecedented in modern baseball history and could ignite fierce debate among fans, historians, and rival clubs. Critics argue that altering official records long after a season concludes risks rewriting history, while supporters insist that restoring fairness no matter how late, which strengthened the league's credibility. Inside baseball circles, the idea has already sparked heated discussion. Some analysts believe the league could issue a symbolic recognition rather than formally changing the record books, while others claim the review could lead to a full reinstatement of the championship. For now, everything remains speculation. But if the rumors circulating through clubhouses and front offices are even partially true, baseball may soon face one of the most surprising historical reversals the sport has ever seen. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.